All right, so we're going to talk spoilers for Deadpool and Wolverine. If you don't want to hear spoilers, I have a spoiler-free review that you can watch. Hopefully, I'll remember to put it in the link in the description or whatever. But I guess to give my brief thoughts again, I liked the movie. It's a comedy. It was funny, like most of the jokes land. But do I believe that it saved the MCU? Not really. Like a lot of the same problems that were in previous MCU movies, whether it be from a script that wasn't all that great, a lot of dull visuals, bad villains and whatnot. Like a lot of the same issues are still present here. Like it's not like a particularly good movie, but it is funny, and there are a lot of cameos that make it good. So let's get into some finer details. One thing that I honestly is just like kind of a hang up for me. How did Deadpool get to Earth 616 exactly when he had his interview with Happy for the Avengers? Because like I get that he had Cable's like time traveling band, but was Cable able to travel between universes? I don't know if that was established in Deadpool 2. I'm a moron, so I very well may have missed something, but I just want to know like how is he able to get to Earth 616? That's what I want to know. Oh yeah, another weird little nitpick for me. I don't really understand the power scaling for the TVA. So like the TVA and TVA agents, they're able to fight Loki. I mean, I think at the end of the day, Loki does overpower them, but in the Loki show, we see them like scrapping with Loki. Do they not have like super strength? Because then in this movie, Deadpool is like easily able to overpower them. I just don't understand the power scaling of the TVA. Because also, like, the TVA, presumably, like, if let's say if there's like a Hulk that they need to take care of and throw into the void, how exactly do they go about doing that? We saw in Loki that they have a bunch of Infinity Stones. Presumably, they would have had to like gotten them by dealing with like really powerful beings and whatnot. How exactly are they going about doing that? Okay, I just don't understand the power scaling of the TVA. Maybe they just like super nerfed Loki, and the TVA are kind of just regular guys. I don't know. Somebody explain that to me in the comments down below. But yeah, I guess and then to get into some actual like criticisms here. Paradox was lame. I don't know. He was just generic evil villain, bad guy, like who I like. And I think the main thing is just his motivation was just really stupid. He was like, I don't like my job. If I do this one thing, then they're gonna realize that we should just go about it the easy way or whatever. And it's just like, what do we, what really? Who cares about your motivations? Cassandra Nova was better, I will say. Like, the performance of Cassandra Nova I thought was really good, the lady that they have playing her. But I guess the big problem with Cassandra Nova is that they just like tell you her backstory, and you just don't really feel it, because they're like, hey, yeah, she was like she's Xavier's sister. We name dropped Charles Xavier. So that's supposed to add something to it, but it's like, okay. It's like, oh, she was in the womb or with Charles Xavier, and he like choked her out with an umbilical cord, and it's like, what? Why are you just like saying all of this stuff? It's just like so, it just felt so weird, and it's like they had to like name drop and like have like a big exposition dump with her, and I think it's because I remember people talking about this character, and I think it's because like people people know of this character, and so they had to just like, they were like, hey, look, we all the stuff that is about the character, we're gonna talk about it, so that the comic book fans are happy or something. But it just came off as like really weird to me and underwhelming, and very like exposition dumpy to me when her like backstory it sounds more interesting than anything that they did with her in the movie itself. And yeah, like her like character motivations were so wacky and wild, where it's like, oh, you guys saved me, I guess, or you guys didn't kill me, I guess. Okay, I guess I'll send you home. It's like what are we doing here? It's just like so weird. I don't even really understand. And then they also treat her like she's gonna be like a big deal, right? Because there's a point in the movie where she goes, "I'm an Omega level mutant, by the way." Like I figured it was like, oh, so she's gonna be like a big deal in the MCU, and they like presumably kill her at the end. It's like, oh, okay, guess not. Although to be fair, they probably don't ever want to use this version of Cassandra Nova, and then if they were to ever introduce Cassandra Nova in like an X-Men movie, they would probably want to build it up on its own. So that's probably fair enough, but I don't know. It was just weird. I just thought it was weird the way that they handled her. And I feel like in general, just all of the emotional beats with Wolverine as well end up falling a little flat. And it's similar to the Cassandra Nova thing, where it's like they just do a lot of telling, not a lot of showing. Like, we don't see any of the X-Men in this, which I thought was really weird. Like, you would have thought that we would have gotten like a flashback with James Marsden and Halle Berry and whatever whoever played Jean Grey. Does anybody know her name? I don't know. Like we hear a lot about them, and we hear a lot about their like about how they died and how Wolverine, wasn't there to save them and blah 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 blah. And they tell us a lot. They demand that we feel a lot, but they don't show any of it. So it's hard. It was hard for me to feel. It just all felt very like just bland or like just not. They were like telling you to feel emotional, and I just didn't personally. Now, as far as the action is concerned, I think most of it worked, right? Like the opening scene where the Bye 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 music video, and we're desecrating Logan's corpse from Logan. That's actually probably going to be, I feel like might be I don't know if it'll be a controversial thing, because they definitely do disrespect the ending of Logan, but I'm okay with it, because at the end of the day, it's not like, it's like they were how do I put this? In the most Deadpool way possible, they were immediately confirming that they weren't like bringing that Logan back to life, which I think is the important thing. The important thing is that he stays dead. Like whenever I die, I don't care what I don't care what anybody does to my body, to be honest with you, right? Like, sell it to science, hopefully they cure some disease with me. Anyways, that I don't know why I had to add that. But yeah, like in the most Deadpool way possible, like with Deadpool literally using Logan's corpse to fight off the TVA agents. That is their way of like immediately confirming that that Logan is dead. Whatever Wolverine we bring in is going to be from another universe. So I was okay with it. I don't know if there are going to be some fans out there that are like, you desecrate the corpse. I don't know. I mean, that's not even an unfair perspective. I just personally don't care. But yeah, overall, the scene itself is just so is so good that I kind of don't care. Like I was like, okay, whatever. Like the scene was good enough that even if I did think it was disrespectful, that would override any of those feelings. And yeah, like the action right from the get-go is super slick. The creative ways that he used the adamantium skeleton was really fun. All the like fourth wall breaking from the get-go is really cool as well. So yeah, great opening scene. The Deadpool versus Wolverine fight in the wasteland in the desert was pretty fun as well. I will say the another complaint that I have is that in general the movie just doesn't look great, and it's really unfortunate because they have a Furiosa joke, right? It's when they're fighting Sabretooth. They have a Furiosa joke. And I don't know why they did that, because I was immediately reminded of how good Furiosa was. And how it's like, oh, hold on, by the way, just to be clear, you can shoot the desert in an interesting way. And they didn't do that. But in general, the Deadpool versus Wolverine fight was good. The Sabretooth fight was weirdly anticlimactic. It's like, I could understand why you would want to make a joke and have it be like, we've waited 20 years for, Hugh Jackman Wolverine to fight this specific Sabretooth from the first X-Men movie. I can understand why you would want to have that be a joke and end the fight in an anticlimactic way, but it didn't even really come off as a joke in the movie. It just kind of sort of happened where Wolverine immediately slices off his head. And it doesn't even feel like a joke when it happens. I don't know. I thought it was weird. I will say, this is probably the best scene in the movie, where Deadpool, he has the big line of like, this is my entire world right here in this picture, blah 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 blah. And they fight in the car and whatnot. And there's like a really good scene when Wolverine like really goes in on Deadpool and really hits him where it hurts or whatever. And Deadpool is actually like silent for a good amount of for like 10 seconds, and you can really feel the tension piling, and he's like, I'm going to fight you now. Like, that to me was probably like that's like the best scene in the movie, where like I actually like felt the emotions of the scene. Most of the other like emotional scenes, it's just a lot of like we're like exposition dumping, but we're not actually going to use filmmaking in order to make you feel anything. In this scene in the car, this is all like we've been going through this journey with these characters, with their relationship. We're actually like utilizing performances and filmmaking techniques in order to elicit this feeling of empathy for Deadpool. You know what I mean? So the scene in the car where they have another fight, I think is by far the best scene in the movie. And the fight itself is also really good. I will say by far the worst fight scene is the fight scene where all the cameos are in there. Like, for the most part, I feel like the fights are like pretty like you can see everything that's going on. It's fluid. You got some good choreography going on. For whatever reason, when you get to that cameo fight, it's like shaky cam, and like it's hard to tell like what's happening. Oftentimes, where it's like, who's like you can barely see like how X-23 and all the characters are like even like taking down enemies. It was like weirdly like badly shot. The cameo fight scene. I will say, maybe the best fight scene in the movie. I still think the scene with Deadpool and Wolverine in the car is the best overall scene in the movie, but I would say the best fight scene is when they're fighting all of the Deadpool variants. That was like really well shot. The choreography was great. Everything with them like going into that bus and coming out of the bus, I thought was really cool. Also, something that I noticed, I think in the movie, Wolverine is wearing a mask here. And this is like a trailer shot where they want to show Deadpool or Hugh Jackman's face. So they either CGI'd out the mask. I've also seen people saying that the mask that Hugh Jackman wears in the movie is CGI. I don't know. It's stupid. But anyways, that fight scene was very cool. I definitely really liked that one. I also thought it was very funny when like Peter, he comes in at the end and saves the day. I thought that was really funny. I will say I think the worst joke in the movie actually is the nice Deadpool guy. I didn't think that was funny at all. I just like that's just peak Ryan Reynolds comedy. That's just kind of cringe, in my opinion. And then yeah, obviously we have all the cameos. We got Johnny Storm. I thought that was really great what they did with Johnny Storm. You know they have the bait and switch where you're going like, oh my gosh, it's Captain America, and they're like, no, it is a Johnny Storm, all from the bad Fantastic Four movies. Although he was pretty good in them, and then yeah, like I think people forget that Chris Evans, while yes we know him as the honorable Captain America, the good boy, but he's great at playing assholes. Like, maybe my favorite Chris Evans performance actually might be in Knives Out. Like, he's so good in that movie. So yeah, it was really nice to see him as Johnny Storm again. Obviously X-23, we saw her in the trailers. Yeah, she was, again, it's just like they really tried to get her to make you feel emotions and whatnot. And just like, hey, it's X-23, it's Laura, and they were like, she's the one that convinces Logan to do the thing at the end of the day to help fight the bad guys, and it was like, again, it's just a lot of with Laura, it was just another example of it. It felt like they were telling us to feel emotions without actually making us feel emotions. So that, but I mean, it was still nice to see her, you know. Elektra, or Jennifer Garner's back as Elektra. I was just like, yeah, sure, why not? We already knew she was going to be in it. And then Channing Tatum is Gambit. So if you don't know, the Channing Tatum Gambit movie was like something that was in the news cycle for like years, where it was like Channing Tatum really wants to play Gambit. They apparently got like very close to actually making the movie, but then because like studio, silly goosery, the movie just never got through. But Channing Tatum has always wanted to play Gambit. So like, I don't know how many people in like the general audiences are going to know about like the history of this, but having Channing Tatum play Gambit is very funny. And like pretty like legendary for that to actually come to fruition here. And yeah, I will say, though, and granted, I think like, I don't think that this performance from Channing Tatum is necessarily like this would have been his performance if he made a Gambit movie, but it's like, I feel like he's not a great Gambit. First of all, he feels too beefy. He's like giant beefy Channing Tatum. I feel like his head is too like big. Like, I feel like Gambit should probably be a little more slim. I don't know that Channing Tatum needs to be that jacked, or I don't know that Gambit needs to be that jacked. And I feel like his accent is also like just like way too indiscernible. And they joke about that in the movie, obviously. So I don't necessarily. I'm sure Channing Tatum would have been a better Gambit than he was in this movie. But I couldn't help but watch this and be like, I don't know that I would necessarily want to see your Gambit movie. No offense. But no, it was so great to see him as Gambit in a cameo sense. Blade, Wesley Snipes' Blade showed up. Love the joke when he's like, I think he says like, pretty sure I'm the only Blade you're ever gonna get. That's obviously a jab at the fact that the Mahershala Ali Blade is just stuck in development hell for forever. It seems like. I thought that was hilarious. And yeah, so I will say overall, like, I actually, so while I'm still kind of like, for narrative sake, for the sake of like the narrative and making me feel or care about this new Wolverine's plight, I do think that they should have brought in more cameos and actually showed their versions of, or his version of the X-Men dying and whatnot to make me feel emotions. But like, I do also understand the narrative theme of Deadpool and Wolverine. Like they never amounted to anything, and they want to amount to something. And so they brought in a bunch of and the cameos that they did bring in are sort of these like lesser characters, right? Like Chris Evans is Johnny Storm. Like that version of the Fantastic Four never necessarily amounted to anything. X-23, she's her character did amount to something, right? Because Logan was a great movie, but you know, she was the character, like she's the character that convinced, you know, Logan to become a hero again in Logan, and she does the same here for this version of Wolverine. Then you get Elektra, right? That movie was terrible, so she's Jennifer Gardner is getting some kind of redemption. Gambit, obviously, Channing Tatum is getting some kind of redemption. Blade, actually no, Blade had a pretty successful run. maybe Blade 3. I actually haven't watched any of the Blade movies, I'll be honest, but I know people like the first two at least. Maybe it's because, oh, you know what it probably is? It's because I remember hearing that that Wesley Snipes and Ryan Reynolds apparently didn't like each other on the set of that third Blade movie. So maybe that's the angle there. But either way, there is clearly an overarching theme surrounding all of the cameos. So I appreciate that. Doesn't necessarily I guess I appreciate the overarching theme there, but I do still feel like at the end of the day, just the way that the cameos were handled still felt weird to me. Like, I already talked about how the big fight with all the cameos was awful. But for whatever reason, whenever they were at the hideout of where all the cameo characters were at, something felt off about all of their interactions. It was almost like they weren't in the same room at the same time. Did anybody else feel that way? It almost felt like they couldn't get Jennifer Garner and Wesley Snipes and Daphne Keane in like to shoot at the same time, and it felt like they had to like the editing was weird. I don't know. Like it felt like almost unnatural, all of their interactions. So that definitely brought down the hype of all of that for me. A little bit. A post-credit scene was great as well, I will say. The reveal that that Johnny actually did say all of those things about Cassandra Nova, I thought was very funny. And yeah, like at the end of the day, I enjoyed the movie. Is it nearly as good as I think this movie kind of needed to be, right? As far as like, does it save the MCU? No, this doesn't give me any indication whatsoever that like, oh, well, clearly they learned from their mistakes here in Deadpool and Wolverine, so now I feel like I can be fairly confident that Brave New World is going to knock it out of the park. I just don't feel that way after watching this. And like, this is a movie that I think has a lot of enjoyment in spite of a lot of those problems. You know what I mean? So Brave New World doesn't have that. Brave New World doesn't have crazy, wacky cameos. Or at least that we know of, I guess. Maybe it does. But yeah, like Brave New World doesn't have like the inherent hype of, you know, Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool, and Hugh Jackman, Wolverine coming together. Doesn't have that. So we'll see. Let me know what you think, though, because you probably might disagree with me. I'm sure a lot of you disagree with me. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. See you in the next one. Goodbye.